Hello and welcome back to the Trailmaker videos. Today we are going to talk about what is a scheduled class. So a scheduled class basically is, which runs at a specific time. So let's say you want something to run at 1 a.m. on every Monday. So you can make that particular logic or a piece of Apex run at that particular time. That's what scheduled class lets you do. So you just set it up once and it can keep running for next 5 years at 1 a.m. every Monday. So that's something you can do using scheduled class. Generally, you don't write any logic within your scheduled class. Your logic sits outside of the scheduled class. The scheduled class is primarily used only to schedule that particular logic. The most important thing to remember is that it implements the schedulable interface. We'll see how that is done in a minute. We are also going to understand today what is the difference between scheduled and a batch class. And schedule is basically when you want to run that particular batch class or any other Apex code, and batch is what exactly you want to run at that particular time. So we understood the batch class in the previous video. If you want to look at it, you can watch the previous video about the batch class. So why call a batch class from a scheduled class? So a batch class, a lot of people, what they do is they implement the schedulable interface within the batch class, and then they make batch class schedulable as well. That is not a good practice. Best practice, and from a scalability point of view, you should keep your code as small and separate and clear as to what that particular piece of code is doing, right? So even, it's a best practice that, any of your methods should not be longer than 10 lines of code. There could be some exceptions, but, that is keep that limit in your mind so that, when you write logic, you break that method accordingly. So yeah, it becomes really helpful for somebody who's coming at a later date to understand what is happening in that method. And then also in future, if you want to, write some new logic or make some changes in that method, it's easier. Don't write thousands of lines of code in your single method. The problem with the batch class is that it deals with large data volumes, and the governor limits basically solves these two problems. In order to run a batch class, you can run it manually as many times as you want, like I showed you in the previous video. But if you want to run it automatically, let's say you want to do a data export or generate a CSV and you want to do that like every night, then you schedule that batch job. That's where your schedule class comes into picture. So what basically happens as a combination of schedule and batch together, schedule basically triggers the job, batch handles your data and the logic and everything. So it's scalable and it's safe to process. So what are the use cases of primarily using scheduled and batch together? Basically nightly account cleanups, daily reporting summaries, syncing data with external systems. So these are a couple of things which you can use for your combination of scheduled and batch job. You can schedule something for as low as every 5 minutes, or you can schedule something like weekly, monthly, quarterly, something like that can also be done. We'll see how to do that in a moment. So a couple of common things to remember, that there could be only maximum 100 scheduled jobs per org. There is a batch chaining limit. And then there are, time zone calculations that you should do before you set up, depending upon how and where your business is placed. So let's say you are sitting in India and the business entity, the whole business works in the UK. So you need to align the batch zone timing calculation accordingly. So because you are based in India, your user time zone most likely would be IST, whereas the business would be working in GMT. So then you need to align the calculations accordingly. The best option is, if you are an admin, convert your IST locale to GMT locale so that you align with the business. And when you run something like this, it will align with the business hours and not your working hours, right? So let's go to the org and see how the code is written. We wrote this basic class in the asynchronous Apex discussion. So it's a scheduled job. What it does is it implements the schedulable interface. This method is a must-have, and it has to again have schedulable context. Now what I'm doing is I'm calling my execute batch example, the class which we wrote in the previous video. The default number of record sizes is 200 here. We can reduce it to 10 as well. Last time I think we did 5. Let's do 10 because I think there are only 13 records in the database at the moment. In order to run this scheduled job, one thing is that what you can do is you can just say, can have a cron expression. Cron expression is basically where you tell what exactly is the time when you want to run. We will have a separate video about cron expressions, but basically this is where you define it what is the interval at which it needs to run. Usually if you Google like 5 minutes cron expression, 10 minutes cron expression, you'll find it and just copy and paste it here. You give your batch class name here, and you can also do it here, and that's it. Now if you execute it, it will start running, and we could see in the logs, so it is there, and scheduled jobs, so we can see our job is scheduled. See, our job is scheduled and it is submitted at this time, and the next scheduled run is 2 a.m. Now what we can do is we can manage it. So we are currently managing it via cron expression. We can use it using builder as well. So if you want to run the batch job daily, what you'll do is you'll say weekly all the days, and then you can select what time it wants to run, and then system will calculate cron expression in the background, or you can give the cron expression like this, and then it will start running at 2 a.m. automatically, right? Something like this can be done, or you can do it via UI. So that's how basically you do scheduled jobs in Salesforce. The key is you have the scheduled a class which implements the schedulable interface, and it needs to have the execute method, and that's it really. And all of your logic then sits in the execute batch, whatever Apex class you're calling from here, and not inside the scheduled job itself. Thank you. Have a good day. See you in the next video.